I'm about to do something that I regret every so often, and hopefully this year is different, but I don't know how true that will be. That said, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Today we're going to be talking about how I'm going to be buying in on the Charlotte Hornets this year. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this one. I have lived the majority of my life in the overall Charlotte area of North Carolina, so I've had my fair share of moments. Obviously, there was the infamous worst ever win percentage in NBA basketball held by the Bobcats. Then you had an era where you had Kemba Walker, you had Al Jefferson, you had 1 year of Dwight Howard even, and now we're in the LaMelo Ball segment, and things have been nothing. To be quite honest with you, there have been some times where you wanted to buy in, where you wanted to enjoy the games, where you wanted to sit there and just watch some good basketball, but then there was none to be had. You look at the bench when we're down 25, 45 points, and everybody's just laughing and having fun. And when you're getting paid millions of dollars to be terrible, can we really be mad? But at the same time, coming from a fan standpoint or being somebody that just enjoys the game of basketball, it can be very disheartening. And another part of the reason why they've been bad, I will give them credit, aside from cough cough, some people's GOAT, MJ, was the injuries. Because we know, for example, LaMelo Ball, glass ankles. That has been the mainstay of his entire career leading up to this point, and I guess you could say that's something with Lonzo as well, just his overall health. But I believe that this will be the year where we see something we haven't seen in a while. Now, with that being said, we have to talk about who's on this roster to make me feel this way, right? Last year, without LaMelo Ball in the lineup, we saw Brandon Miller do some very, very interesting things. And of course, we know that there were some guys that were good, some guys were bad, some guys were kind of all over the place. But Brandon Miller was at the top of last year's draft class. Was he as impressive as Victor Wembanyama? No. But was he a darn good player? And could we now say in hindsight 2020 that he was the better person for the Charlotte Hornets over Scoot Henderson? I would say so. The numbers seem to be that way. And of course, their careers could turn out any which way. But I think that for once, MJ finally made a right move, even though he was walking out the door with this one. That said, now with new management, a new coaching staff, I think that we're going to see some very interesting things. It's projected, at least on ESPN's website for the Charlotte Hornets, that LaMelo will start at the 1. You'll have Brandon Miller at the 2 guard. You'll have Josh Green, who's actually looking kind of promising. I don't love him, but I do kind of like him as a player at the small forward spot. Then, of course, you have the one and only Miles Bridges, whose album is about to be dropping any day now. I forget what day, but it's early October. It might be the 10th. And then you have Mark Williams running the 5. Now, this is if everybody's healthy, right? And then off the bench, you'll have Micic running the 1. You'll have Trey Mann at the 2, Cody Martin at the 3, Grant Williams, who was a very, very big piece in them kind of changing the culture around in the second half of the year after the trade that sent away PJ Washington to the Dallas Mavericks. And it did wonders for PJ Washington's career, honestly, even though he finally had some level of expectation put on him, but that's a conversation for a different day. Grant Williams brought a energy and a vibe of, we're not just going to sit here and lose. And did we lose the majority of the rest of the games? Yes, but there was a stint there where there was some really competitive basketball being played, even in losses. And that's something you can't really get mad at. Being a team that's just going to be destined to be bad is one thing. But if you can be competitive and you're losing by 4 points, 6 points, 8 points, that's a lot better than sitting there perpetually losing by 12 to 22 to 13 to 28. That gets old very, very quickly to the point where it's why do you even tune into the games? And the tickets are so cheap. I mean, I might be able to get a front row seat to watch LeBron and Bronny play. I was about to say for $13. That's a lie. Because of LeBron and Bronny, by the way, not because the Hornets are worth more than $13 at the front row. But Nevertheless, I do think that this year will show things to be a little bit more interesting. I think Grant Williams will play a big part in this. I don't think he will be a starter. Obviously, I liked Grant Williams, but I don't think that he should be put at the 3 in place of Josh Green. I know some people have said that, or also said Cody Martin sitting in the starting lineup, but I want to see what Josh Green can do first. I think that is his spot to lose, but I mean, you could go any which way depending on how they decide to run the organization this year. We're going to see a lot of fresh things, some fresh concepts, some different offensive sets, and as long as LaMelo can stay healthy, him alongside Brandon Miller should be really impressive, because Brandon was not a bad shooter or scorer from the floor, even on high volume shot attempts over the duration of the entire season. Now at the 5, you'll have Nick Richards backing up Mark Williams, which I actually do like that duo down there. Then for third string, if you want to go that far, you'll have Seth Curry, you'll have Salam, the rookie, you'll have Taj Gibson, and there will be some other pieces sprinkled in here and there. KJ Simpson later on and Nick Smith Jr., but nothing, or Diabate, but nothing too crazy outside of that. Now, some people, they're intrigued by these names. Some people, these names mean nothing to them. And either way you fall in it, I understand. LaMelo Ball, to me, obviously having been an all-star before, I think that he, when healthy, is an all-star caliber player. LaMelo Ball, to me, when he's healthy, should also be a good defender. And I've seen him lock in spurts, but I haven't seen 36 minutes of LaMelo Ball clamps, 36 minutes of above average LaMelo Ball defense. And I think that's going to be the thing that really determines how far this roster can go. Because it would be different if we were talking about somebody that was like 6'2", 6'3", running the point guard spot. LaMelo's whole life 6'7", and while he hasn't put on much muscle mass, he's still capable of keeping up with literally almost every point guard in the game from a length standpoint, because length allows you to recover a lot better even when you get beat on some plays. And for him, it's just the effort is not always there. And while I understand he's been expected to hold a lot of the offensive load in the past, he's also taken a lot of three-pointers. Like last year, even the year before, half of his field goal attempts are literally threes. Like I'm talking this man shooting 8, 9, 10 threes a game. And respectfully, threes don't take nearly as much effort as going downhill at the basket every play or hitting a post fadeaway. Now, does it take energy? Of course, because you have to size somebody up. You got to get free and you got to hit those. If they're assisted, it comes a little bit easier as well, but I'm not going to sit there and downplay his game that far. As a floor general, I think he can get a little bit better, but he has all the fundamentals, all the physical intangibles necessary to be a peak point guard. Like I'm talking top 3 in the league. And whether he does or not will ultimately, I believe, come down to him and more importantly, his health, because as much as I would like to sit there and say, oh, he's choosing not to be a good defender a lot of the time, I'm also in the back of my head wondering, has he always been healthy the entire time? Or has there been a little tweak that's holding him back and he's afraid of pushing that extra gear because he just doesn't want to risk rolling that ankle, tearing something in that ankle, or just needing surgery at some point regardless, because that's obviously a big part of it. Brandon Miller, like I said, was a really, really great basketball player. I enjoyed watching him play. He made me actually believe in the Hornets a little bit last year. Now, they were bad, nevertheless, but obviously, even though I'm more so cover the Utah Jazz, the Hornets were somebody that's always going to be close to my heart. I have a signed Nicholas Batum jersey by Batum and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, one of my greatest players of all time. Some people said, who? And some people said, the guy with the broken jump shot. Either way, I mean, you're valid, but that's one of my GOATs. Shoot me, But the Hornets this year, I think, if healthy, will have the ability to be very defensively intense. Brandon Miller seems to be a willing and ready defender. Obviously, he can put on a little bit more weight. I don't know what his measurements are going to be coming into this season. And in media day interviews and whatnot, I didn't see anything too crazy from his transformation. Like he didn't have it in Imani Bates offseason where he gained 35 pounds. But I do think that he could gain a little bit more muscle mass just to allow himself to absorb contact a little bit better, both on offense and on defense, even though he is a very, very good scorer. I think Josh Green, I don't know what expectation I really want to put on him, because while he is promising, we haven't yet seen like what the best iteration of him could potentially look like, or at the very least, I haven't just yet. Miles Bridges, we know what he can do. He said recently in media day interviews that he's prepared to take a step back. Yes, last year he averaged, I believe, 21 points and basically was almost a lock for a double-double almost every night. He also has a pretty decent playmaking sense overall. I think that he's going to do a lot more passing this year. He probably will see a lower mark points per game. He might be closer to 17, 18. Can he still give you 20 every night? Absolutely. But just because LaMelo is going to be back alongside Brandon Miller, those two guys I think will take the lead on those offensive duties, and he'll be that third person that can also chip in what you need. Like I said, Josh Green, I think, will be a little bit of an X factor, and not in the fact that you need him to win, but if he turns out really good and takes the system really well, you can see something really smooth come out of it. Mark Williams, when healthy, I love him. I love him as a rim protector. I love him offensively, even though he doesn't have a tremendous amount of responsibility put on him. I think that allows him to exert himself defensively a lot better. He moves pretty decently on the perimeter. He doesn't have two left feet like Rudy Gobert, so you could trust him in pick and roll just a little bit more. I would like to see how his pick and roll coverages work with a healthy LaMelo Ball, a healthy Brandon Miller, like for a long duration of the season. That'll tell me a lot about what he can do defensively overall and how talented he will actually be. Micic, I want to see what we can get out of him. Obviously, being the player that he is, he has a lot of upside, but there's also the question mark of, okay, when you're going from a guy like LaMelo Ball with his playstyle, his stature, and his just overall scheming, how much of a change is that going to Micic for that bench unit? And that's not to say that that's a terrible thing, because honestly, I think Micic would be a welcome change at times, and I don't view it as a terrible, falling off a cliff downgrade in the minutes that LaMelo's not on the floor. I think he'll be able to hold his own just fine. Trey Mann, it'll be interesting to see how that works out between those two in the backcourt particularly, but Cody Martin has shown us who he is. He's been reliable. He's not been, Caleb Martin, where he's had the immaculate numbers that jump off the page at you, but at the same time, he's been a consistent flavor in the Charlotte Hornets system. I think that Grant Williams, again, is going to be he might be the X factor over Josh Green, actually. Because seeing how he changed the culture in just a few games when he came to Charlotte, and obviously he played high school ball here and everything, I think that this will be a very strongly led second unit. And this depth right here, I mean, Seth Curry being ideally, well, maybe ideally, some people say not, being able to have the depth to say he's going to be third, running the 2 or the 1, is pretty good. I love the way that he shoots. I know he's not a terrific defender or sometimes an above average defender, but I do like the shooting prowess that he has and the ability that he has to impact the game. Salon, I saw some things in the Summer League that I liked. I would like to see more of him, obviously, with this preseason coming up and into the regular season. It'll be interesting to see what type of player he is, what type of wing defender he is, and just how far his athleticism and shooting touch can carry him. And then, like I said, Nick Richards, I love as a duo to switch out with Mark Williams. Last season, I saw a lot of him. I actually went to my first ever NBA game with the Jazz coming to town to play the Hornets, and I got to see a healthy dose of what quite a few of these guys look like in person, because obviously seeing them on camera is one thing, looking at advanced analytics is one thing, but it's a different feeling to be there in person, breathe the same air that everybody's breathing in there, hearing the crowd just chanting and all the vibes and everything, watching the runs happen, watching the runs get extinguished, honestly, and get shut down, watching somebody catch a lob, watching a pick and roll live, because it's a vibe, honestly. And I think seeing all the added pieces, because I believe there was an overall turnover of like 14 players from them that either just didn't come into this season or were traded at the deadline, like PJ Washington and some others did. But either way, I don't think that Taj Gibson is going to play a big piece in anything, just to throw his name in there, but he would be, kind of cool as a veteran leader, kind of, maybe in a more of a Udonis Haslem type of thought process than anything else. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you are a Hornets fan, what do you think that the Hornets will do? I personally, could I see them being fully healthy, right? I think they are a top 10 team in the East. I don't think that's crazy to say. The East is obviously a lot easier to sniff the playoffs than in the West. They're not as deep, though they're very top heavy in the type of teams that have the ability to go very deep, the teams that we would consider contenders. And then everybody else is just kind of like they're cool, they're middle of the pack, but if you saw the Hornets beat the Pacers on one random night, everybody healthy, would it be like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, how did this happen? No, you wouldn't say that. So I would say that they're probably a 9th seed team. I would have to go over their overall strength of schedule, probably like 20 games in the season, to know exactly where I would peg them by the end of the year and how delusional I am in believing that they could potentially be a play-in squad, even though I don't think it's too crazy at the moment. But, who's to say? Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I'm always interested. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications if you made it this far in the video. And as always, it's been your boy Wraith Hoops. good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.